Hey everyone, Darby here at AI University, channeling my inner Jedi, because we're going to read through this comment on a recent upload to our YouTube channel and podcast for episode number 3, using ChatGPT for deep research, finding strategic partners in minutes. So the comment here was, man, that's crazy how capable and accurate AI is becoming. Can you do a video where you give a business consulting prompt, such as getting an industry benchmarks for something specific, then creating a benchmark framework, then prioritizing benchmarks based on relevant criteria to the reference country we're working within, or some other complex business problem solving prompt? Maybe we can give it a shot. And so that was from Hassan 2 here on YouTube, and let's go ahead and see what we can do with it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that question and I'm going to open up a new tab with ChatGPT. I'm going to start with O1 Pro. I've been really liking the time it's spending on the reasoning, and the outputs it's been giving me for a number of different problems has been surprisingly good. So what I'm going to start with is the initial question. Then we're going to restructure it a little bit with some voice commands and come up with an example to see how we might be able to utilize this tech and AI's capabilities to do just this for business consulting. To say, can you do a video business consulting prompt? By that, I want to create a scenario that would be widely applicable to business consultants who work with companies not just specifically inside of the United States, but all over the world, doing something that is relevant and creating an example scenario around this for business consulting that we can create a benchmark and framework around. And then once we've identified what that industry benchmark and something specific that we want to create, we want to then prioritize and create a formula for prioritizing benchmarks based on relevant criteria to the reference country we're working within, and other complex business problems solving prompts. So the first thing I want you to do is analyze what the initial inquiry is here around the business consulting prompt, and then identify a formulaic framework that we can utilize within a specific industry as an example. So do some industry benchmark research first, using deep research to identify what this industry example is going to be. And then we're going to reverse engineer a prompt framework that we can use and apply to different scenarios within that type of industry or various industries that we're working in, and apply specific variables like country, potentially different states and jurisdictions, and things that we're going to want to incorporate that we may not even be thinking about right now. So I've given it my second set of expansion instructions on what was the initial YouTube content, and I've selected my deep research here. So now what I'm going to do is click enter. And immediately before it starts going into reasoning mode and otherwise, and I like this about how, in terms of operating with this, before you want to go spend 3, 5, 10 minutes or even longer in some cases on some of this research, asking some clarifying questions, which will help me with refining exactly what I'm trying to get out of here. So now the question is, I need to clarify a few points. So now we have one industry selection. Do you have a specific industry in mind, manufacturing, retail, finance, healthcare, SaaS, or should I use one that's has well-established benchmarking practices, benchmarking focus, financial benchmarks, or revenue per employee, profit margins, operational benchmarks, production efficiency, supply chain performance, reference country benchmarks be applicable globally, or should we focus on a specific country or region? And then our framework goals. The goal to create a generalized methodology for benchmarking that business consultants can use across multiple industries, or tailoring one industry right now. Good questions. Let's go. All right. So thank you for the questions. I'm going to start with number 1, the industry selection. What I want to do is focus on B SaaS, but more specifically, I want these B2B SaaS to be AI native platforms that are startups, generally around 3 years old, sometimes less, that are much more lean and operating at a different type of functionality than a traditional B2B startup would have. We have a minimal team of 3 to 5 people at these B2B startups, doing 3 to 5 million plus in revenue, and we want to focus on this type of industry and market for the benchmarking purposes. For the second question about the focus of the benchmarking, I want to highly analyze the profit margins that some of these companies operate within, noting that there are various ways that these companies in this space are capable of making money, some of them through the hardware, some of them through the software, the AI solutions, and other forms of development that may not be as research intensive, but some and resource intensive, but some are a lot more lightweight and lean, and some are much more cumbersome with the overhead that they carry. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, what I care about for myself and my clients is how much money we actually keep as a business. And so we want to focus on the profit margins for this particular industry as our benchmark. For the reference country, I want this to be more applicable globally because much of this technology is available to tap into through the cloud, though not every country has the same level of regulations that allow AI tools and services to operate in the same manner. And so I want to be able to operate globally, but starting with the United States first. And as far as the framework goal, I want to create a generalized methodology that we can utilize for business consultants that can be used across different industries and countries. And for the purposes of this example, I want you to take the industry that I gave you first, but then we want to also be able to reverse engineer that for additional industries and countries so that it is applicable to many different consultants across many different industries. Okay, so now it's saying, great, I will conduct deep research on industry benchmarks for AI-native B2B SaaS startups, specifically those around 3 years old, operating with lean teams of 3 to 5 people and generating $3+ million in revenue. The focus will be on the profit margins, recognizing the variability in revenue sources, hardware, software, AI solutions, and other business models. And this will include analyzing how different overhead structures impact profitability. Additionally, I will create a generalized benchmarking framework that business consultants can apply globally, starting in the US, and adaptable to different industries and regions. The framework that will also be used include a prioritization methodology based on country-specific relevance criteria and regulatory environments. I'll provide an in-depth report. As you can see this on the right-hand side of my screen right now, it is doing that. An in-depth report with structured insights, key profitability benchmarks, and a methodology that you can use across industries and locations. I'll update you when it's ready. That's fantastic, chat. Let's see what it's looking at over here. So you see that was the response back to my instructions on the main chat screen. Now we have our activity and our sources, which I can actually toggle through, and it's compiling these sources. I'm collecting industry benchmarks for what it just said it's doing. I'm digging into case studies and articles on SaaS benchmarks, focusing on lean teams and high revenues. And you can see all of the different things it's looking through over here. So it's working through these SaaS metrics. I'm working through metrics like the rule of 40 for healthy SaaS growth. See, I haven't heard of that, so I'll be interested to see what that looks like. I'm noting interesting points like heavy SaaS margin requirements, potential pitfalls of hardware service costs, mapping out compelling search snippet to attract target companies, ensuring headlines of interesting. Yeah, I'm noting Toast's hardware impact, impacting gross margins. Bain Capital Ventures. AI companies often show 50 to 60 gross margin due to high compute and data costs, contrastly sharpening with SaaS firms 80 to 90%. Noting a VentureBeat article likely references A16Z piece. All right, so it's thinking through a lot of stuff right now, as you can see that here on the side, which I think is really cool to see how it's processing the information and how it is going through the research, finding the sources, compiling the sources, which will end up here on the separate source tab on the right. And while it's doing that, I'm going to go get myself a cup of coffee in the morning. All right, and we're back. And look what happened while we were getting some coffee. We've got the outputs of this report here. So we see it great. I will conduct a deep research on the target industry and the market that we're looking at. I'll provide an in-depth research. I'll update you when it's ready. It took about 5 minutes to complete. For some reason, it didn't. It said 0 sources, but then you look over here on the right side, where it is pulling the sources from. Introduction, AI-native SaaS business startups. So especially those here, pretty new territories, profitability benchmarks for early stage AI B2B startups. So early stage B2B startups. So we can see here, interesting, so these startups operate lean, minimal headcount, 3 million operating roughly 600 to 100, 600K to a million revenue per employee. Defining this cohort, product type AI native implies core offer involves intelligence, artificial intelligence, revenue streams, recurring subscriptions, one time, hardware sales, growth stage, and then we have a gross margin. All of the SaaS gross margin, what to know, why it matters, pure SaaS. Primarily the software subscription, cloud APIs could be high. Traditional B2B SaaS often target gross margins of 75 to 85%, 80 plus gross margin, according to SaaS experts, AI intensive services, even offering high COGS due to cloud compute, data processing, and hardware GPUs required to run AI models. And so you see that those margins end up getting dragged down towards 60%. We've got all of these different sources that we can go and review as well. Hardware-enabled SaaS, give some examples of other companies. Overall, the blended cost. So I'm not going to read this entire report here, like word for word, but I just copy and paste this onto our blog so you guys can read it if you want. Structure, account and payroll, hardware and inventory, sales and marketing, operational. There's a lot of information here to read through. This is a lot of, I'm sure it's very valuable information, just a lot to dive into. I wasn't expecting this much information. Profitability, overhead scenarios, 5 employees, 500K, high for a startup, achievable, opportunity 3, benchmarks. Then we had the framework. So there's two parts to this, right? We had the one of the initial objectives. Since now what I did was it created a framework for me to come back to developing a global benchmarking framework for consultants. And so this is really where the question stemmed from. We're starting this process in the first place. So now we have this framework here. Apples to apples, not just data's sake. The framework should help prioritize areas and improvements, benchmarking, industry, segment, business model metrics, consider interplay of metrics. So this could, in effect, be the prompt that you can take and then run that framework through another instance of O1 Pro, just giving it different context for whatever industry, whatever business that you're looking to create these benchmarks and research around. Very cool when applying it, extra layers. So now we see, interesting here, summary and SaaS margins for consultants, the benchmarking framework. Uses framework, a consultant can derive structured insights, for example, identifying SaaS startups is below 60% margins below the US peer average of 75% due to a high cloud costs. Simultaneously, if the analysis were in Europe, the consultant would ensure European benchmarks data is used to note the typical margin and how there's differentiation there. Key takeaways, very cool. And taking this same approach now, if you wanted to do benchmarks like this, you would take this prompt and then run it through, again, try the different models, but I'm getting great results from O1 Pro, and this isn't even touching the O3 Mini and other things that are sure to be released after this video comes out. You could take this, and I'll post this on our blog so you can have access to it, and take this and then rerun it through another industry and analyze the data and use this as a benchmarking tool for business consultants to add more value to the clients you're working with. Don't have any idea what this would cost to do traditionally if you were to hire a consulting firm to do this type of research. But my guess it would be more than $200 for a one-time payment for someone to go and do this. And since that's the cost of what ChatGPT costs every month, maybe there's an ROI there for you if you're a business consultant. And hopefully you found that this demonstration was useful. If you did, please share and please comment and let us know. That's why we create these videos, to help share how you guys can utilize these AI tools to grow your business. And with that said, my name is Darby Rollins, founder of GenAIUniversity.com. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment, let us know what you liked. And until the next video, keep calm and AI on. I will see you on the other side. Cheers.